Hi folks, welcome back to College Hill Farm. Well, you saw the title. What makes modern homesteaders thrive? What do they come to the table with? What do they want to achieve? You know, there are so many things that go on in modern life, so many digital things. Everybody's interconnected to everything. Connections everywhere. If you look up something on the internet, next thing you know, you're getting advertisements about it from Amazon and from Temu and from whoever. Alright, so what do modern homesteaders look for? Now, the reason I do these videos, they help me. What was that? I have no idea. I think something flew into the tank back there. They help me to look at the way I feel about homesteading and the way other people about homesteading and reconcile those different things. Now, some people have lately called me a liberal. Let me tell you something. I am not a liberal. I'm also not a conservative. Okay, the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party are doing anything for us. The problem is we have two classes in this country. We don't have an upper class, and we don't have a middle class, and we don't have a lower class. We don't have that. We have an owner class, and then we have a working class. That's it. Those are the two classes. But they say upper class, middle class, and lower class to give y'all somebody to friggin' hate. Okay? There are only two classes, the working class, which I'm part of, and the owner class. Only 3% of the United States are in the owner class. Alright? And they use all the other class stuff and racial stuff and all that stuff to divide us. Alright? That's what's going on in the country right now. They're dividing everything up between the wealthy. The owner class is dividing everything up. Yeah. An owner class and a working class. Okay? That's what I believe. And anybody that doesn't vote for the working class is stupid. Alright? Neither party is doing that. We need a good third labor party who will stand up for the working class. And that's everybody but about 3% of the population. So, yeah, I do these videos. Don't get confused and think that I'm some big liberal. I'm a realist. I'm a realist. I look at things for the way they are. I look at real statistics, not made up bullcrap put out by the Democratic Party or by the Republican Party. Okay? They put out their own myth for everybody. So don't get that caught up in your little thought process. You know, they holler liberal this and liberal that and da-da-da. Bullshit. You've been brainwashed. Alright, let's get on with what modern homesteaders look for. Okay, let's look at the core of what homesteaders want to accomplish. First off, they have a desire to be less dependent on the grocery store. They know, real homesteaders, and not the ones that are making money off YouTube for being homesteaders. Okay, there's a lot of those. I make a little money off homestead, but it ain't enough to worry about. Okay, all right. I make a little bit of money. I think we've got close to 13,000 subscribers, and I don't make enough to worry about. Okay, I don't make enough to cover my grocery bill, so I raise crops to cover my grocery bill. I try and do things that will keep my utility bill as low as possible. I'm putting in solar panels in this fall. That's something that I'm doing. And I try to rely as little as possible on the industrial system of food. Okay? I do have a tractor. Okay? That's just what I do because I am too old to get out here without a tractor and be able to grow 1.5 acres of vegetables. It just can't happen. My back won't allow me to do that. So I'm a realist. You find that I'm a realist in about everything. I'm a realist. So I use a tractor, but I probably, if you looked at all the vegetables we grow, we buy very few vegetables, except in a year like this year. I'll wind up buying vegetables this year because, well, you know why. We preserve our own food, crystal canned. We freeze, we dehydrate, we do all that. I want to generate my own power. You know, these are core values that a lot of preppers do. I want to generate my own power and become less dependent on the grid system. And some homesteaders even homeschool. They go so far as they want their kids out of the industrial schooling, which I wouldn't agree with that, but you know, everybody has to do their own thing. Then there's a thing about food quality and security. Now, every year at the grocery store, food goes up. The price of food goes up. It doesn't matter who's the president. It doesn't matter who's in Congress. The price of food goes up every year. Price of gas goes up. Price of food goes up. Price of gas goes down, but food don't come down. Just pay attention. Okay? Pay attention. You have to be a realist. Pay attention. Grocery stores are making maximum profits. The big grocery stores have made more profit this year than they've ever made in history. Okay? Made more profit this year than they've ever made in history. Think about that. So we want to have some control over what we eat and how much it costs us to eat. So that's one of our homestead goals. And that's the way a lot of homesteaders view it. Wow. Come on, fly. We got these old deer flies. It's fall. They're out here being mean. Supply chain instability. My supply chain for vegetables is out here in the garden. Okay? I wanted to make my supply chain for meat up in the goat barn, but I haven't got there yet. And I don't know if I'll ever get there. At my age, I may have went to the animal part too late in life. But then there's pesticides and glyphosate. I try not to use glyphosate here, but what that means is that I have to do a lot of hand clearing of weeds. Because weeds don't stop because you decide to stop using glyphosate. They are a big deal. Well, this fly, I think I got him. Okay. Weeds don't stop growing because you decided to stop using glyphosate. You have to mechanically remove them. Or you have to be satisfied with letting them grow. When I was a kid, my grandfather had 5 acres, but most of it was growed up. What wasn't growed up in gardens was growed up in weeds, and he had a little yard around the house. Okay? He didn't worry too much about weeds. He had paths through to his chicken house and his hog lot and that kind of thing, but he didn't worry so much about if there were weeds growing up. So that was a thing. Pesticides. I try not to spray pesticides. There are a few crops that I can't grow here without growing pesticides, like eggplant. If I don't spray eggplant with a pesticide, the bugs eat it up. Well, guess what? I just quit growing eggplant. Okay? Because I would rather not spray. Now, if I have to spray, I spray an organic insecticide. Something that will deteriorate. Pyrethrin, made out of chrysanthemums. After about 3 days, it's gone. It's deteriorated. The sun deteriorates it to make it harmless after about 3 days. Most modern homesteaders start off with the simple animals, backyard chickens and rabbits and that kind of thing. I would like to go to rabbits. We raised rabbits when I was a kid, but Paul got to where he wasn't able to take care of them anymore, and we lived too far away, and so he stopped raising rabbits. So I think I'm going to go back to raising rabbits as soon as Crystal starts getting a little better. The next thing is financial freedom. A lot of homesteaders come to homesteading thinking that it is going to liberate them financially. I have found that is not necessarily the case. Okay, Liberation Day financially, when it comes to homesteading, didn't happen for us, and it probably is not going to happen for you. You still have to have a certain amount of money to live. First off, in the United States, nobody owns anything. Okay, you think, well, I own my property. I own this property free and clear, except I have to pay $800 a year in taxes on the property. And if I don't pay my property taxes, guess what? They come and take the property. Okay, that's what happens. So, do I own it? Not if they can just take it. I don't own it. Think about that. Nobody in America owns anything. Alright? If you don't pay the property taxes, they can seize it and sell it. Just be ready for that. Most homesteaders want to live a frugal lifestyle. They want to be happy with what they have and do the things that they want to do. Crystal and I are happy. We draw a little pension. I draw a pension from where I was a teacher, and we draw a little pension, and for the most part, we're financially stable and happy. We've been happy for the last 10 years. We've been happy for the last 40 years. Me and her have been together 40 years, 41 counting the dating part. We're friends for 10 years before that, so we've been friends ever since elementary school. So we have lived a frugal lifestyle. As a teacher, I never made a lot of money, and we made the decision early on that she would stay home until the kids were big enough, and then she would go back to school and get her nursing degree. So that's what we did. She stayed until the kids were like 16 and 12, and then she went back and got her nursing degree. So some want to be off-grid or mortgage-free. I'm mortgage-free, so that was one of the goals of a homesteader that we wanted to accomplish. But not all homesteaders can accomplish that. Now, most homesteaders come at this seeking environmental sustainability. In other words, they want to raise their stuff in with nature. Let's take an example. The food system that we have right now would take pigs and put them in a barn somewhere and raise them in that barn where they've never seen the light of day. They can never be like pigs. They raise them in a barn and then they slaughter them. And they've never got to live like a pig would live. Okay? They've never experienced grass. They've never got to dig in the dirt. Okay? You see what I'm saying? It's unethical the way we raise our meat. Cows in a feedlot. You know, they come by and they feed them grain just to fatten them up, and they've got a 10 by 10 space to take a walk around in, and that's it. There's not enough room for them to move. Chickens that are egg layers, or chickens that are for meat, they're in a big barn and they never get to eat a bug or a blade of grass. Okay, so homesteaders want to come to that. An animal raised on this farm, if I was raising animals right now, and we raised animals as I was growing up, they had one bad day. Okay? The rest of the time, they've got to live their happy animal life, and they have one bad day. And then they go to freezer camp. So, most homesteaders want it to be that way. They want to raise their animals in an ethical way and allow them to be animals and to be natural and make that as sustainable as possible. They want to live more in harmony with nature. I don't want to be one of those people who comes in and cuts everything down. Okay? I leave wide margins. I leave room for the wildlife. I planted clover so the rabbits would leave my garden alone. Okay? Rabbits love clover. If you've got enough clover planted, they will leave your garden alone. So you learn to live in harmony with nature. Most homesteaders want to do that. They compost. They conserve water. They catch water. Okay? They have water catchment systems so that they can water their garden responsibly, or can water their animals responsibly. Okay? Those are some of the things that they do. They practice natural building. They try and build buildings and things that will complement. You know, I want to build my building out of wood. I don't want to build it out of steel and metal. You have to use steel on the roof, but I want to build it out of wood as economically friendly as possible. So mine is made with rough lumber, harvested locally. So yeah, that's an important thing for me. You know, this tractor shed, that what you see back there is I use some dimensional lumber for the long side walls and things, for the long boards, but for the regular boards, I got maple, or not maple, but poplar and oak. These boards back here are all poplar and oak for the boxing. Okay, a lot of the boards, like the boards I use for the cross members on the roof, the purlins, they're poplar and oak. Okay, locally harvested. Now, many homesteaders are fed up with life in the city. They don't want to have somebody looking at them every time they walk out their front door. They want to be able to go out on their property and be surrounded by nature. That's the way I feel about it. Crystal's a homebody. She likes to be home, and she doesn't like to be bothered by a lot of people. So we're that kind of people. We have done this video channel just kind of to chronicle our lives, but it helps me to have something to do on the side. I'm a busy kind of person, and this allows me the opportunity to connect with people without having to connect with people. Do you know what I mean? Without having to, a lot of homesteaders are that way. They're overwhelmed by our digital and social media interactions. There's a constant noise and societal pressures. We want out of the city. When I was a kid, we lived in Detroit, and my dad hated it. Hated it. So, back to Kentucky we came. Homesteading's a slower life. Now, most people can't quit their job. We came here. I had a half-acre homestead before we did this. I raised most of our food on it, our vegetables. There was no way I could have raised meat enough on that half-acre. Even chickens would have been a problem. So on that half-acre, we raised almost all the vegetables that we ate. But here we raise all the vegetables we eat, and I could raise enough animals that we could eat off of this property without many inputs from the outside. Sustainability is a myth, though. Okay, we would still require feed and vitamins and salt, and okay, even the old timers bought salt and coffee and flour. And all right, I don't raise wheat. All right, I don't raise wheat, so I can't make my own flour. All right, and I don't want to. Just saying. So we are just really trying to escape this fast-paced world. And some people, I would almost call it a mental problem. They are stuck in a lifestyle that they just don't like. They are at the whim of an industry that that expects them to do everything. They expect them to be at their beck and call for $15 an hour. Okay? They expect them to answer their phone if they call them at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I know tomorrow's your day off, but we need you. Alright? They expect you to do that. That's bullshit, but that's what they expect. And a lot of them want to escape that. But then when they come to homestead, they find out they can't quit their day job because it's almost impossible to make a living at homestead. There's a lot of people on YouTube saying, I make my living off of this quarter acre. I make $100,000 a year. Bullshit. Bull sugar. Okay? Be a realist. It is a healthier lifestyle, though. Even if you're having to work, you go to work during the day, and in the evenings, you come out, you work on the farm. You may have that cubicle job that you're not doing anything, but homestead life takes care of that. It gives you the exercise you need because there's always something to do on a homestead. Always some kind of physical labor that needs to be done. And for me, physical labor is like mental therapy, okay? I come out and work, I can feel really bad, and I come out and work, and by the time I'm done, I usually feel a lot better. When I quit teaching, I was pretty burnt out. And we bought this place, and it took us 3 years to renovate the house. 3 years. I was 51 years old and just retired. I was burned to a crisp. And we started renovating this house, and that was just kind of like therapy. There were days that we would say, okay, we need to go back to the other house where there's soft chairs and sit down and take a break from this because we were working hard every day, me and her. But eventually we got the house done. It took us 3 years. There's still a couple little things I still haven't got done. You know, I need to fill in where there was a floor furnace. I haven't got that done. The fireplace needs to be tiled. I haven't got that done either. I haven't got to it yet. So, yeah. But it's part of a healthier lifestyle. The things that you do, you're on your schedule, nobody else's. Okay? It's so, how do I put it, freeing to be on your schedule and nobody else's. Now, when we bought this place, my brother, he said, are you really leaving Harlan County? And I said, yeah, baby, I think I am. I said, you know, my grandfather, we called him Paul, P-A-W, Paul, or P-A, Paul, and he retired from the coal mines on the miner's pension. He was about 51 or 52 when he retired, and I don't remember him working in the mines, okay? He had already retired from the mines a couple of years when I can remember, all right? So he had retired on the miner's pension. It's only like $75 a month or something. But that was back in 1964 or 65. So he retired, and they gardened. They sold plants. They raised great big gardens. They sold potatoes. They sold eggs. They sold chicken. They took care of their own chickens. They had sheep and pigs, and okay, so they had all these things, and he lived to be 77. Now, my dad, on the other hand, worked until he was 60, and then he had black lung pretty bad, and by 67, he was dead. So Paul added time to his life. So I wanted to do that. I wanted to add time to my life. Of course, I wasn't exposed to the stuff that Dad was. So I may add time to my life, and I may not. Okay? I expect that I will. Dad and Mom both died of cancer. It's probably where I'm going to go. It's surprising to me that Crystal got cancer and not me. But we pay homage to that. We can. We connect with their way of life. I remember how Paul did stuff, and I do things the same way. I think about him and the way he couldn't bend over and pick stuff up. I'm the same boat. I cannot bend over and pick stuff up. So he would get down on his hands and knees he would go through with his plow and plow up his potatoes and go through with his hands and knees and pick them up. I use a grabber. I've got a grabber that I can use for that. So there are all these things that the traditions are the same. You know, it preserves our cultural heritage. It's a lot of the same stuff that I did growing up that I do now. And I show you about the cultural heritage. And I show you things like shuck beans. Okay? It's a cultural thing. And then there are homesteaders that want to have a community. They want to have a group of people who share like ideas and like responsibilities, and they come together and they make groups. Sometimes they're preppers and sometimes they're not. Most of the time, homesteaders are not necessarily preppers. Okay? They have a desire to be less dependent, but they're not necessarily preppers. Now, me and Crystal, we're preppers. And I'll do a video on that in a little bit about what are homesteaders afraid of. But that's not the scope of this video. A lot of homesteaders want to have friends local. They want to have like-minded friends that they can call on to ask questions, to do stuff. They want to be friends with the local farmer. Look, if you're going to raise sheep die at the drop of a hat and drop the hat, okay? So if you're going to start raising sheep, you need to have a sheep farmer on speed dial, friend of yours. So you really want to do that. You want to reach out and become friends with those kind of people. So you need to build intentional communities. Bartering networks. I have traded for I don't know the things. I've got stuff and then traded for other things, and yeah, it's been a good system for us. And then there's this thing about being a good steward of your land. Homesteading is all about being one with the land that you have. I love nature. Nature has to be one of the greatest things that you can get close to. We have lost our connection to the land. Over and over and over again, I see how we have lost our connection to the land. And I want to get back to that. I want us to be able to look at things the way they ought to be. So I work toward that. And you should work toward it too. Homesteaders should work toward that goal of making things in such a way that they can survive into the future, but at the same time not destroying all the nature. Some people get aggravated when they see me setting a trap to catch a groundhog or setting a trap to catch a raccoon. That's all part of stewardship, okay? That's all part of stewardship. If there are too many raccoons, it's bad for them as much as it is for your crops you grow. Okay? If there are too many raccoons, they're going to be too much competition and their babies aren't going to survive. They're going to get diseases. Too many rabbits, the same thing happens. They get diseases. They get rabbit fever. Okay? Rabies. Different things happens on your homestead. Too many skunks, the same thing happens. Okay, so homesteaders have to become stewards of their land. And that's what they want to be, stewards of the land. Just because you trap a raccoon don't mean you hate them. Okay? And don't mean that I waste them. Raccoon stew's delicious. And if I catch a possum, I always turn them loose. Okay? If I catch a possum, I always turn them loose. That's just the way it is. Possums don't hurt nobody. They don't get big diseases, you know, like rabies and stuff. Their body temperature's too low. They can't get other diseases though, and it can cause them to not act right. So, yeah, but you have to be a good steward of your land. Nature's just what it is, and that's what homesteaders. Those are all the things that modern homesteaders are looking for when they move away from the city. Now, if you like this stuff, this homesteading, do-it-yourself kind of thing, be certain to come on out to the channel and subscribe. We do this homestead stuff every week, sometimes once, sometimes 5 videos. Just depends on what's going on in the homestead that week. Now, if you hit the little bell, it'll be right up here when you come to the channel. It'll notify you when we upload a video. We upload on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, with the occasional short on Friday, Saturday, and through the week. So now, time for me to get on to the next thing. I love you all.